Good morning. It is Thursday, November 21st. Uh, my name's John Gilkison, and I wanted to shoot a blog this morning on what's called operating two electric vehicles and what it would look like in our household. Um, I published this blog yesterday, and it's a follow-up to our test drive on the Ford Lightning Pro. As you know, we own a Ioniq 5, so we already have one electric vehicle. And we also have a 2014 Ford F-150 XLT gas truck, which we use primarily to tow our fifth wheel and to do some other truck things. So I got curious about what if I got rid of that truck and had a Ford Lightning Pro truck with a 131 kilowatt hour battery pack. What would it look like trying to charge and operate both vehicles in our household? How much would it cost? How much electricity would it use, and so forth? And it was quite an interesting exposition, really. I had to make a series of assumptions, of course, as you always do. But in this instance, excuse me, I'm chewing on a cough drop. We only really drove our gas truck about 7,000 miles last year. And we're purposely trying to keep the mileage down because it's several times more expensive to operate than our electric car is. However, if we had an electric truck, we could drive it more often. Not as much as the car, but it would take some pressure off the car to have an alternate vehicle to take to town. So the assumptions I made was to only driving our car 18,000 miles a year and driving the truck 12,000 miles a year. And it turns out that by doing that, they would both use about the same amount of power, even though, of course, I'd go less miles in the truck. So the first thing I got into in the blog was towing. And the assumptions that you make on towing a fifth wheel trailer that weighs several thousand pounds and probably has a CDA of somewhere around 0.29 is that you're going to lose about 50% of your range. So realistically, the electric truck at 63 miles per gallon highway only really has 260 miles of range, not 320. And if you're going to lose 50% of that, you're down to 130 miles of towing. Now that's assuming you leave the house with a 100% battery and drive it, tow it down to zero, which you're not going to do. So, and once you're on the highway, you're only going to charge you 80%, and you're going to try not to drive below 10%. So you're operating with about 70% of your battery. And the range figure drops out, it's 91 miles of range if you're losing 50% of your range. So technically you can slow down a little bit, or you can go a little bit below 10%. So you might have from 90 to 100 miles of range, and a little bit more when you start out with 100% in the morning. So let's say you can go 110 miles. So I figure in a day you could easily do 300 miles with 2 stops on the road. And those stops will be about 45 minutes. And when you consider getting off, getting on, getting hooked up, all this other stuff, you give yourself an hour for charging each time. So you could drive about 5 hours a day, 300 miles at 60 miles an hour. And an hour towing, or excuse me, charging. And then you would have to charge it at the end of the day when you get to your campsite. Now there, although I wouldn't have access to 240 volts for charging overnight at the campsite normally, I could still use my 120 volt charger at 15 amps. So let's say I stopped somewhere at the end of the day and brought the truck up to 80%, and then went to my campsite. And then overnight I could at least get it to about 90% or so. So I could leave in the morning. So it is doable. We're planning a trip to the Florida Keys here in March, and using an electric truck under that kind of scenario would not be a pleasant exercise. And if you made a mistake, you know, you got all your camping paid for in advance. You don't have any flexibility in your itinerary, really. And you got something happen for some reason, and you didn't hit your marks every day, it'd screw up your whole trip. So I wouldn't go out and buy that electric truck right now and then hook it up to tow to the Florida Keys. I still haven't resolved the fact that I can transfer my slider hitch to it just yet. My hair hasn't been on fire over that because I'm not buying the truck. So anyway, but that's not the primary consideration here. What, for the purposes of this blog, what I'm interested in is how, on a daily basis, using the truck, 1,000 miles a month, and using the car about 1,500 miles a month, how would that work out? And it turns out it's quite good, actually. At my off-peak rate of 4.72 cents a kilowatt hour from midnight to 8 a.m., I could easily charge both vehicles, keep them both charged. With the equipment I have, I wouldn't need any new installations at all. I only charge the car about every 3 days as it is. And so I may not be able to fully charge the truck overnight, but I could get it 60-70% of the way there. And so my numbers kind of fell out at, see what we got here. The truck would end up costing $27.27 a month, and the car would cost $23.43 a month. The total would be approximately $51 a month to operate both vehicles for 30,000 miles a year of driving. So that's incredible. And a lot of people would say, yes, please, but wait, there's more. I have the capability, because we have 9.9 kilowatts of solar power, grid-tie solar. Now, during the day, from approximately 9 o'clock in the morning to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, in other words, 6 hours, I can charge at 16 amps and still export power, because I'm only drawing 3.6 kilowatts. And I can stuff about 20 kilowatt hours in a vehicle in that 6 hour period. Now, during the summertime and when I'm using air conditioning, this doesn't apply. So I lose about half the year, let's say. So, but for half the year I can do this about 5 days a week based on the historical averages of cloud cover around here. So about 5 days a week I could charge these vehicles, and what is it, 5 times 20, that's 100 kilowatt hours a week I could put in these vehicles for free. So that changes the equation a bit. And what would I'd end up putting 60 kilowatt hours into the truck every week, and I'd put 40 kilowatt hours into the car. And that would lower the price from $51 a month for charging down to $40 a month for charging. It turns out it would be $21 a month for the truck to charge it, and it would be $19 a month to charge the car. So there you have it. That's a smoking hot deal, I think. The downside to this whole thing, of course, is getting the truck. And that's the big roadblock here. It's a $60,000 truck, and if we traded in the truck we got, or sold it, let's say we could sell it for $15,000, which I think we could do easily, and because it's in great shape. I had the $7,500 tax rebate, so you get the financing down around $40,000. And Ford's offering this deal of 0% interest for 72 months. Let's say if that, you're still ending up with payments in the $700 to $800 a month range. And I don't have a problem with that particularly. I mean, we were making $595 a month payments on that pickup truck before we paid it off. And that seemed like it took a long time. So, I mean, if you have the budget for it and you want the vehicle, you could do it. And I think that's what my message here is to most people, because I find when it comes to buying an electric vehicle and talking about all this money savings on fuel, people, oh, well, yeah, but the electric vehicle's too expensive. Well, any car you buy is too expensive, you know, if they're costing $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. They're all expensive, and it just depends. Is that the vehicle you want? I never hear anyone saying, well, I want a Corvette, but they're too expensive. If you want one, you want one, you just go buy it. That's what people do. And if I want an electric truck, and I have the resources to spend on monthly payments like that, and it doesn't hand me into a corner on my budget, then I'll do it. And it's just not in the cards right now for us. And as I told you earlier, we're making this trip to, I'm looking at my timestamps there, I'm at 13 minutes. We're making this trip to the Florida Keys, which I wouldn't use a truck for that long distance of towing, at least not right out of the chute. So it's not in the cards at least until after that trip. But something, you know, something could happen with our budget. We've lowered our car payment a bit, but we're still making a pretty good car payment. And it's just something would have to change with our budget. We also have a new trailer. So right now we're having to take the truck in before we go on this long trip. It's a 4,600 mile round trip, and we're going to have some repairs. There's a small oil leak, and we got some turbo issues, which basically have to do with a blow-by or a leak. And both of these items need to be repaired before we take off on a trip like that, and that's going to be quite expensive. However, if we get them fixed, the resale of that value of that truck still will stay high, instead of being much lower. Once you tell someone about these repair issues, they're not going to want to buy it for those kind of prices. So anyway, that's where I am. Here you have a pickup truck, which a gas truck, if you drive it normally, 12,000, 15,000 miles a year for a gas truck at 18 miles per gallon. I mean, you're at over $2,000 fuel bill every year. It's just horrendous. So your fuel costs are $130, $40, $50 a month. And that is a showstopper for me. So here to drive an electric pickup truck like a Ford Lightning Pro, it's equivalent of a Ford XLT. It's to do that for $21 a month, that's an incredible march that you've stole there. And then to operate a car also for 18,000 miles a year for $19 a month. This is really something. So I like it. So we're headed in a good direction, and I'd like to get rid of gasoline, period. It's not in the cards yet, but always thinking ahead. So there you have it. Go see my blog. If you want to read the blog, you can go to Electric Vehicle Organization, SNM. That stands for Southern New Mexico. It's EVO SNM. And it's a Facebook page. And it's open to everyone. You can just go to it. And I have the blog posted there. And the title of it is What Operating 2 Electric Vehicles Would Look Like. And I just published it. So thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you down the road. Bye-bye.